Greetings, my glorious Adeptus Custodes. Today I tell you the truth, and it is, alas, not the truth I know in every corner of the Imperium, for our dark past is full of bitterness and suffering. Well, the Golden Throne, an artifact of the Dark Age of technology, the hope of all mankind that has become my prison, a mighty machine capable of amplifying the power of the one who sits upon it 1,000-fold. But what secrets does it hide? What is its real purpose, and how, thanks to the Golden Throne, I almost realized my dream? I hope you're ready. And before watching, be sure to subscribe, become a true Adeptus Custodes, and invite others. Let's see how many of us there are. The Golden Throne. Let's start from the beginning. A long time ago, back in the days of the Unification Wars of Terra, I think, it was the 30th millennium, I found a core device, which later became the Golden Throne, in the depths of the Sunken, among the sands and ruins somewhere in the desert on the Asian continent. This happened even before the Great Palace was built in the Himalayan mountains. Here you must understand that I did not create this Golden Throne. It was a discovery and a great gift from dark technology, but it was probably a work of the Xenos, most likely the Eldar or the Ancients. After so many years, I do not remember. What is it? Did I ever know the answer to that question? My goal of leading mankind to a brighter future was paramount, and that's why I began my experiments with the core, having come to the conclusion that the device could increase my powers 1,000-fold, as well as give me access to the dimension of the web, which essentially runs between the warp and the real world. Recall that the web was a global project of the Ancients. They were a race that could quickly travel to their myriad worlds without risking warp influences. They devised a special portal to enter this dimension, and later showed it to their most trusted race, the Eldar, who began building cities in the web. I was fascinated by the possibility of traveling without using warp, and decided to use the core of the device I had found to build what was known as a Golden Throne. It was to be built right around the ancient artifact. The plan was a good one. Humanity was in constant danger traveling at warp. By opening a huge portal to the web to the humans, which would become a passageway and lead to other exits, the humans would deny the warp creatures the ability to affect their lives. In my heart, I wanted to completely abandon the use of psychers, which have always been the main bridge between our world and the Immaterium. No one, neither Eldar nor human, understands how the web works, and anything incomprehensible is frightening. If my plan had worked, there would be no navigators and astropaths, or very few left. The entrance to the web was so large that a scout-class Titan could fit through it, and that's no small machine. It was possible to send troops and colonists to different ends of the galaxy without having to fly in spaceships. I had a plan to get rid of all the psychers in the Imperium. I was developing Oculus testing stations that could detect hidden PSI genes in humans, after which Imperium geneticists would remove the psycher mutation from their bodies, and they would lose their abilities completely. I continued to experiment with genetics to make humanity a species from the beginning of the Dark Age of technology, when psychers were few and far between and people didn't mutate much. All in the name of a bright future and humanity's prosperity. I decided to use the Adeptus Mechanicus to organize the Golden Throne and connect it to the core I had found. There were many bundles of cables, wires, and gold tubes stretching from the Golden Throne. The thrones of the device were created from a gold alloy, hence the name in general. You will ask me, how does it work? Mankind had not gotten to the point where they could build Catan gates or create their own portals to the web, but thanks to the Golden Throne, or rather its core, the most powerful psycher could open a large passageway into this dimension at least the size of a Titan. The psychic powers of the Great Psyker, whom I had the foresight to create, and who later betrayed me and all of us, would always support this entrance. You may know him as Magnus Red. As far as I was concerned, it was his destiny. his contribution to the Imperium and the future of humanity. But no one, neither he nor my other children, was supposed to know about it. The web of humanity was a very big secret from everyone. Only a select few knew what was going on, and that wasn't to say that they hadn't had their memories erased. It was to finish my project that I left the Great Crusade, made Horus a warrior, and went to Terra to build a golden future for the entire Imperium. The need to hide it from everyone didn't go down well in the end. Many of my children were greatly shocked that I had left them behind, and in Horus's case, it unfortunately set the stage for betrayal. I handed over the reins of the Imperium to the only ones I could trust: Malcador Sigilith, Constantine Valdor, and Celebor Hal. Then I retreated to the dungeon beneath the palace to complete my project. Why didn't I tell my children about the Golden Throne and the web of humanity? When you plan to completely rid humanity of psychers, not everyone is going to like it. I didn't want wars and internal strife just because someone started a rumor. So I decided to keep it from everyone, even my sons. What happened next? Many of you know. My favorite son, Horus, fell under the influence of the forces of chaos and betrayed me, organizing his heresy and massacres on Istvan III and Istvan V. At this point, the Imperium had many problems to solve. When word reached Terra of the massacre in the landing zone on Istvan V, Rogal Dorn requested an audience with me. I shared my dream with him and my loyal servants. They learned that I wanted to ruin the lives of the Chaos Gods, to purge the psychers and rid humanity of psychers as a form of mutation, and that my plan required a colossal investment of psychic energy to contain the warp entities that wanted the Imperium to go bad. At first, not much psychic power was required, so I couldn't take my eyes off the throne or even command my armies. But that all changed the day Magnus the Red happened upon the palace with his warnings of the Horus heresy. On that day, the situation took an unexpected turn. Let me remind you that my son Magnus, while under the influence of the forces of warp, received a vision that Horus had betrayed me. His motive was noble, to warn me of the plot. This is why many consider it not a betrayal of Magnus. But my son, instead of sending a messenger, cast off his physical shell and flew through the warp to Terra, using many of the most powerful sorcerers of the Thousand Sons, who were forbidden from sorcery because of the Council of Nicaea. Magnus succeeded. His essence flew to the palace, and with its power destroyed all the defenses I had set up in case demons invaded the palace. And by doing so, Magnus had deprived humanity of the bright future I had so long and hard strived for. The great psychic shield was destroyed, and the warp dwellers began to infiltrate the Imperial part of the web as it was being built. What began there could hardly be borne by the human mind. But in a nutshell, thousands of Custodes, Sisters of Silence, Imperial Knights, and Mechanicum fought against hordes of demons to prevent them from breaking through the portal to the palace. They fought for humanity, for my dream, and I, who was trying to protect my creation to the last, realizing with each passing hour that I would hardly be able to get up from the Golden Throne because there would be no one to hold back the onslaught of the gods of chaos. At first, the battle was fought in the ancient Ildar city of the Web, but after many days and nights, the defenders lost most of their troops and retreated to a place from where the Golden Throne was already visible through the portal. Here I managed to reinforce them with my psychic presence, which like the sun shone and scorched the demons. The warp creatures could not approach the Golden Throne. The situation in the Imperial part of the web was complicated by the appearance of the ancient demon Drachnian, also known as the Echo of the First Kill, who longed to deal with me. He called me Anathema, which is my name in the warp. I was spending more and more energy to hold back the onslaught of demons and couldn't help my troops in the web. Something had to be done about it, and then the terrible nature of the Golden Throne as a machine that literally burns people in order to keep working was revealed. As you know, some of the Silent Sisters are busy flying black ships around the galaxy and harvesting psychers to later bring them to Terra and use them for the needs of the Imperium. Some of them are to become navigators, assassins, and maybe even inquisitors. But some of the psychers are being sent to the throne room to sink the Golden Throne with them. As my powers began to fail, the Silent Sisters charged the first squads of psychers into glass coffins that were connected to the golden device. Container after container slipped into the hall on primitive anti-gravity suspensories with a rumble. Each sarcophagus was wrapped in chains and pushed by the persistent, guiding hands of a servitor with scrambled brains. I was on the throne. I was gripped by pain. No longer could I hide my suffering. I had no choice but to scream silently, but I was willing to endure any agony for the sake of the race of people. I could no longer pay attention to anyone. I fought my war. 1,000 containers were lifted along the curving walls. It took several hours to complete the process, and at the end all the dark metal capsules were sent directly to the Golden Throne. The first psyker to be taken by the Golden Throne was a little girl named Skoya, who of all things knew how to talk to her ancestors and had done nothing wrong. Beside her, slowly shouting, 999 other psychers entered, one by one. This sacrifice helped me get up from my Golden Throne for one day, gaining new strength and helping my army in the web. During that time, I was able to lock Drachnian into my trusty Bushmaster, Ra Endymion, and ordered the evacuation of everyone alive from the web, and with great difficulty closed the portal, then buried my dream. Of course, the portal didn't close forever. Now the door had to be held open by psychic force. If I stopped holding back the door, demons would immediately enter Terra, and holding them back required more and more psychers every day. So the Golden Throne became my prison. If Magnus was loyal, if he could easily replace me. His strength was enough. Given the extra boost from the psychers, I decided to reassure myself. I used the volcano's ability to forge the so-called Talisman of the Seven Hammers, a device that was later built into the Golden Throne in case the forces of chaos took over Terra. Should that happen, and they poison the very heart of humanity, the talisman should completely destroy Terra. How? By simply detonating the Golden Throne device. The only one who was able to sit down besides me was Malcador Sigillite. This happened at the very end of the Siege of Terra, when Horus challenged me aboard his flagship Avenging Spirit. Realizing that if he didn't kill me, the Chaosites would likely lose because loyalist reinforcements were flying towards Terra. I informed Malcador that it was his turn to sit on the throne while he fought the Chorus. No one but Malcador could contain the energy that was in the Golden Throne for more than a few seconds, and Malcador was always willing to sacrifice his life for me. So he agreed. Horus was defeated, but I was in serious condition, and to save him, in his last breath Malcador energized me with his psychic powers, allowing me to recover. I thanked him and all my companions, but since then, I have said nothing more, said nothing. And so, for more than 10,000 years I have sat on the Golden Throne, connected to life support systems, from where I still guard the Imperium from the forces of warp, and also maintain the Astronomicon beacon, which allows more or less quiet traveling in warp all the forces of the Imperium. It is said that the Imperium does not stop getting better over the years, and so the number of psychers being absorbed by the Golden Throne has steadily increased over the 11,000 years. It is said that it now takes 4 times as many psychers to maintain the optimal power level of the Golden Throne as before. 4,000 per day. But that's not the worst part. The scariest thing is that the Golden Throne is just a mechanism with a core that is already thousands, if not millions of years old. And what happens to mechanisms over time, of course, they fall into disrepair. Clearly, the Golden Throne is maintained by the Adeptus Mechanicus, but with each 100 years it becomes more and more difficult. At the end of the 41st millennium, it became clear that many mechanisms of the Golden Throne have technical failures that simply cannot be fixed by the Aptus Mechanicus. It turns out that sooner or later, the Golden Throne will stop working, and it will lead to destruction. The very thought of it. When it will happen, no one knows. However, there is an assumption that it only has 100 years left. But right now, it is just me and the Golden Throne that is the only obstacle in the way of the gods of chaos to the destruction of the heart of humanity, Terra. The first chapter of my diary comes to a close. Thank you for watching, young warrior. Join my ranks and become a true Adeptus Custodes and invite others. Let's see how many of us there are. May we meet again.